Let me describe someone, and tell me if this sounds familiar. Sarah is 34, works in marketing for a tech company, makes $85,000 a year. Her husband Jake is 36, software developer, pulls in $95,000. Combined household income, $180,000. They live in a decent suburb, three-bedroom house, two cars, one kid in daycare. By every conventional measure, they're crushing it. They did everything right. They went to college, they got good jobs, they're not buying designer handbags or leasing luxury cars, they're packing lunches, they're using coupons, they're responsible. And yet, at the end of every month, the bank account hovers near zero, and they can't figure out why. If you've ever looked at your bank account and thought, where did it all go? We make good money. This video is going to make a lot of things click into place. Because what's happening to Sarah and Jake isn't a personal failure. It's something much bigger, much more systemic. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. My name is Alex, and 5 years ago, I was Sarah and Jake. I was making $120,000 a year in corporate consulting, had all the trappings of success, and I was drowning. It took me hitting rock bottom, $40,000 in credit card debt, and a panic attack in a parking lot to finally see the invisible script that was running my financial life. Now, I'm debt-free, and I make these videos to help you see what I couldn't see for years. If this resonates, hit that subscribe button because we're going deep today. Here's what everyone believes. If you make more money, you should have more money. It's mathematically obvious, right? You get a raise, your bank account should grow. You get promoted, you should feel less financial stress. Double your income, double your wealth. Simple math. Except that's not what happened. A landmark study by Elizabeth Warren and Amelia Tyagi found something shocking. Two-income families today, despite making significantly more money than single-income families of the past, are actually more financially fragile. They're more likely to file for bankruptcy. They have less savings. They're one crisis away from collapse. Let that sink in. Warren called it the two-income trap, but it's bigger than that. It's what I call the invisible script, a set of unexamined beliefs, societal expectations, and financial defaults that run your life without your conscious awareness. And the most shocking finding, making more money didn't make these families more secure. It made them more vulnerable. That's not a personal failure. That's a systemic trap combined with psychological programming most of us never questioned. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Let me take you back to 1975 because understanding the history is crucial to understanding why you feel broke despite making good money. In 1975, the median household income was about $13,700. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $58,000 now. And here's the key. That was typically one income, one person working, supporting an entire family. That single income was enough. Not just barely enough, actually enough. A family could buy a home spending about 25% of their income on housing. They could afford a car. They could raise 2 or 3 kids. They had health care through the employer. College, while not free, was affordable enough that you could work your way through without drowning in debt. And critically, they had financial margin. They had breathing room. They had a resilience built into the system. But here's what most people don't realize. They also had a backup plan. If something went wrong, if the primary earner lost their job or got sick, there was someone at home who could enter the workforce. It wasn't ideal, it wasn't equal, but it was there. It was a safety net. It was resilience built into the system. Now, fast forward to today. The median household income is about $75,000. But here's the thing, that's not one income anymore. That's two incomes, two people working, often in demanding jobs, to bring in what amounts to barely more than what one person could earn in 1975 when you account for the cost of everything else. We've essentially activated the emergency backup plan as the default operating mode. Both parents are in the workforce, not as a choice for fulfillment or career ambition, but as a financial necessity. And here's what nobody talks about. When you compare the financial position of a two-income family today versus a one-income family from 1975, the numbers are brutal. Housing costs have increased by 600% since 1975, while median income has barely doubled. Healthcare costs have exploded. Childcare, which didn't used to be a major expense because one parent was home, now costs an average of $1,400 per child per month in many cities. College tuition has increased over 1,000%. Cars cost more, insurance costs more, everything costs more. So here's the brutal truth. Today's two-income families don't have double the financial security of yesterday's one-income families. They have less because their fixed costs expanded to consume both incomes, and they have zero backup plan left to activate. Now you might be thinking, okay, Alex, but I make more than $75,000. My partner and I bring in $180,000 a year. We're different. And I hear you, but let me walk you through the math, because this is where the trap reveals itself. Let's say you and your partner make a combined $180,000 a year. That sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. On paper, you're in the top 20% of household incomes. You should be thriving. So let's see where it goes. First, taxes. Federal, state, FICA. You lose 30% off the top. That $120,000 becomes $126,000 in take-home. Still okay, but wait. Housing in a decent school district, $3,500 a month. That's $42,000 a year, down to $84,000. Childcare for one kid, $1,400 a month or $16,800 a year, now $66,200. Two cars, payments, insurance, gas, $1,200 a month or $14,400 a year, you're at $52,800. Healthcare, premiums, deductibles, copays, $8,000 a year. Student loans, $7,200 a year. Basic living, groceries, utilities, phones, clothing, $24,000 a year. These aren't luxuries, they're the cost of existing. Let's add it up. Started with $180,000, after taxes $126,000, after housing $84,000, after childcare $66,200, after cars $52,800, after healthcare $44,800, after student loans $37,600, after basic living $13,600. You have $1,133 left for everything else. Retirement, emergency fund, entertainment, vacations, any unexpected expense. That's $36 a day for two people, $18 each. One family dinner and you've blown 3 days of margin. Here's the psychological trap, and this is where it gets insidious. When you look at your gross income, you see $180,000. When banks look at your income, they see $180,000. When you're making life decisions, where to live, what to drive, where to send your kids to school, you're basing those decisions on what two incomes totaling $180,000 can theoretically afford. You buy the house in the good school district based on what two incomes can support. You finance two reliable cars based on what two incomes can handle. You commit to the daycare, the activities, the lifestyle that feels appropriate for a household making $180,000. And technically, you can afford it, as long as both of you stay employed, as long as nobody gets sick, as long as both cars keep running, as long as there are no surprise expenses, as long as your industry stays stable, as long as your company doesn't downsize, as long as you don't burn out and need a break, or hits any of the 1,000 unexpected life events that humans encounter. This is where the trap snaps shut. Elizabeth Warren's research found that the two-income family, despite making more money, is actually living on a tightrope because they've already played their backup plan. There's no reserve capacity. There's no two-income waiting to activate because it's already active. Before we go further into the system, we need to talk about what's happening in your head. Because here's the thing, the financial trap and the mental trap are the same trap. You can understand every word I'm saying and still not change anything. Why? Let me ask you something. When you think about money, whose voice do you hear? For most of us, it's our parents. Maybe you heard, money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that, or rich people are greedy, or you have to work hard for every dollar. Those weren't just throwaway comments, they became your operating system. Here are the beliefs that keep this trap locked. I'm just not good with money. This becomes self-fulfilling when you avoid your accounts and decisions. I don't deserve to be wealthy. This creates a worthiness ceiling where your self-sabotage at whatever level feels appropriate for someone like you. More money won't solve my problems. True, but this keeps you from learning to use money as a tool. And I'll be happy when I make $200,000, the destination fallacy. I've seen people making $200,000 who feel exactly as broke as they did at $50,000 because the identity didn't change. So here's what I want you to consider. Who are you when it comes to money? Are you the person who can't help themselves with sales? The person who deserves a treat after a hard day? The person who feels guilty having savings while others struggle?
These aren't character flaws, they're identities, and identities drive behavior. If you're feeling uncomfortable right now, good. That means we're getting somewhere. The single-income families of 1975 had something the two-income families of today don't have: financial flexibility. If crisis hit, they had options. Not ideal options, but options. It was a backup. It was margin. It was resilience. The two-income family has already played that card. There's no backup plan. There's no reserve income to activate. Both engines are already running at full capacity. So when crisis hits, and it will hit because that's life, the family doesn't just lose that income, they lose everything built on that income. If either partner loses their job, gets sick, needs to care for an aging parent, burns out and needs a break, the family can't just lose that income and adjust, because the mortgage was based on both incomes, the car payments were based on both incomes, the childcare that enables both incomes was based on both incomes. It's a house of cards. This is why Warren's research found that two-income families file for bankruptcy at higher rates than single-income families did. It's not because they were irresponsible, it's because they were vulnerable. They were running an economic engine with no oil in the reserve tank. Everything works fine until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, catastrophic failure happens fast. A recent study found that 40% of American adults couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without going into debt. These aren't unemployed people, they're working professionals, people with jobs, often good jobs. They're not broke because they're lazy or stupid, they're broke because their fixed costs expanded to consume every dollar of their income, leaving no margin for being human. But here's where it gets really interesting and uncomfortable. Even when people understand this intellectually, they keep recreating the same reality. Why? Think of it like a thermostat in your house. You set it to 68 degrees. If it gets too cold, the heat kicks on. If it gets too hot, the AC turns on. You have a financial thermostat too, a set point for what feels right or safe or appropriate for someone like you. This is why lottery winners go broke. This is why people with sudden raises expand their lifestyle immediately. It's not because they're stupid, it's because their internal thermostat says this is too much, and they unconsciously bring themselves back to baseline. You get a $10,000 bonus. Your immediate thought isn't invest this, it's we need a new couch, or let's finally take that trip. And here's the really uncomfortable truth. Struggle can feel safer than success. If you've always been the person who gets by, being the person who has it figured out feels like a betrayal of your identity. If everyone in your family has been working class, becoming wealthy feels like leaving them behind. Your brain will create problems to bring you back to the familiar level of stress. So ask yourself, what's my set point? Do you always have exactly $0 to $500 in your checking account, no matter what you make? Do you sabotage right when things are going well? Do you create emergencies that consume any surplus? If you're nodding, you're not broken. You're just operating on autopilot. And now we're going to change the programming. Here's what really gets me. When I break down that $180,000, people think luxuries, but it wasn't. It was housing, childcare, healthcare, student loans, the fixed costs of middle-class participation. Look at housing. In 1975, prices were set by what one income could afford. Then more families had two incomes. What happened? Prices got bid up, way up. The house that cost $40,000 then is $400,000 now.
Not just inflation, but because buying power doubled. Once prices reset, you need two incomes just to afford what one used to buy. It's an arms race where everyone escalated and nobody won. You're paying more for the same house. The same happened with education. Good school districts got bid higher. You're paying private school prices through your mortgage just to access decent public schools. And once locked in, you can't go back. The trap has closed. Now let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. Becoming financially secure requires you to stop being who you've always been, and that's terrifying. Most of us inherit a class identity from our families, working class, middle class, and these come with beliefs about what people like us deserve. If you grew up working class, wealth feels like greed, so you stay loyal to the struggle. If you grew up middle class, you spend to maintain appearances, trapped in an image that's bleeding you dry. And here's what happens when you start building wealth. First, it feels wrong, like betrayal. Then you feel alone, as friends don't understand. This is the deepest trap, the belief that financial success means abandoning your people. But here's the truth. You can't help anyone from a position of weakness. Staying broke doesn't make your struggling friends less broke. The most powerful thing you can do for people you love is show them that it's possible. So the question isn't, can I afford to change? It's, who do I need to become? Not someone who betrays their roots, but someone who honors them by breaking the cycle. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Alex, but what am I supposed to do? I need both incomes just to pay the bills. And I hear you. That's exactly the trap. You need both incomes to survive the lifestyle you've built around both incomes. Here's what most people miss. Changing your money requires changing two things simultaneously. Part 1, the practical strategy, what you do with money. Part 2, the identity shift, who you become around money. Most people focus only on part 1 and wonder why nothing sticks. You need both. Here's what most families do. Get the second income, immediately expand fixed costs to match. Bigger house, newer cars, lifestyle upgrades. Then they're stuck. Neither partner can take a break, start a business, or care for family. The alternative is income layering. Build your lifestyle on one income. The second becomes entirely flexible. Savings, investments, debt payoff, investments. The critical difference, you could survive without it. You'd cut back, but you'd make the mortgage, keep food on the table. You'd have resilience, options, a backup plan. A concrete example, making $180,000 total, buy the $350,000 house you can afford on one income, not the $500,000 house. Drive one used car, choose good, not elite daycare. Bank the difference, emergency fund, retirement, 529s, debt payoff, investments. Every dollar buys back time, flexibility, the option to say no, the ability to weather crisis. It buys freedom to choose. But here's the thing, that practical strategy only works if the identity shifts first. The consumer asks, can I afford this, and buys if yes, optimizing for comfort today. The investor asks, is this the best use of this money, optimizing for freedom tomorrow. They see money as seeds, not permission to spend. You don't flip overnight. It's like tuning a radio, static at first, then clarity. Here's what it looks like. You want something. Old brain, I deserve this. New voice, is this the best use of $200? That's $1,460 in 20 years. Sometimes the item wins, but now it's conscious. And you'll know it's working when it feels weird. Friends joke you're cheap, you feel embarrassed in your paid-off car. That discomfort is your old identity dying. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable. This requires sacrifice in the short term. It means staying in the smaller house, driving the older car, sitting out expensive trips. Here's what nobody tells you. Your brain will sabotage you. Week 1 feels great, then your brain generates reasons why this won't work. That's not failure, that's change. Your brain is pulling you back to homeostasis. When resistance hits, observe it. There's my old identity. Then do the new behavior anyway. But here's the payoff. Within 5 to 10 years of living on one income and investing the second, something magical happens. Compounding takes over. You actually have what you thought the $180,000 lifestyle would give you, but real. You're building wealth, not treading water. You make decisions based on what you want, not what you can't afford to lose. You're not the same person anymore. You didn't just change your bank account, you changed who you are. And I want to leave you with one final thought. The two-income trap isn't really about income. It's about identity, expectations, and the invisible scripts we follow without questioning them. Our grandparents, with their single-income households, had something that we've traded away: margin. The space between what they made and what they needed, the ability to absorb shock, the freedom to make choices based on what they wanted rather than what they had to do. We traded that margin for bigger houses and nicer cars and the appearance of success, but appearances aren't wealth. A big house isn't security. A new car isn't freedom. A prestigious zip code isn't peace of mind. The families who thrive financially in the modern economy aren't the ones who make the most money. They're the ones who have consciously designed their lives with margin built in, who have questioned the default path, and who have had the courage to look different than everyone around them. And ultimately, this all comes down to one choice. Do you want to look rich or be free? Do you want comfort now or options later? Do you want to keep up or break free? These aren't just financial questions, they're identity questions, because your money will always follow your identity. You can budget your way out of a lot of problems, but you can't budget your way out of a trap you don't even know you're in. Now you know, and knowing changes everything, because now when you make a consumer choice, you're not unconscious, you're choosing. When you spend based on status, you're not unaware, you're deciding that status matters more than freedom. And that's okay, as long as it's
Consciously, as long as it's really what you want. But for most of you watching this, it's not what you want. You've just been running someone else's program. Now you can write your own. The question is, what you're going to do about it. If this video helped you see the invisible beliefs controlling your bank account, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe for more content that connects the psychology of money with practical strategies that actually work. No BS, no get-rich-quick schemes, just real talk about how to build actual wealth. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one belief about money you're ready to let go of? Or tell me, what's your financial thermostat set to? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.